Matthew 6 verses 25 through 34. This passage is part of what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. It was spoken to ordinary people. Many of them lived one day at a time. If they did not work that day, they did not eat that day. Food and clothing were not minor concerns. They were survival concerns. So when these words were spoken, they were not theoretical. They were practical. Let's begin with the first line. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Notice something immediately. The instruction is not, do not work. It is not, do not plan. It is not, ignore responsibility. The instruction is about worry. Worry is a mental habit. It feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels like preparation. But it is not the same thing as action. Then comes a question. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? This is a perspective shift. Life is more than the things you are anxious about. Food matters. Clothing matters. But they are not the whole of life. Sometimes when your mind is overwhelmed, it reduces everything to one pressure point. Finances, health, stability. And your mind begins to believe that one concern defines your entire life. This sentence interrupts that distortion. Life is more. Now listen to the next section. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? This is not poetry for decoration. It is comparison for correction. Birds are active. They move. They gather what they need. But they are not panicked about next week. They live within the limits of the day. And then comes the direct question. Are you not much more valuable than they? That is not symbolic language. It is literal value. If care exists at the level of birds, it does not decrease when it reaches you. It increases. Now listen carefully to the next sentence. Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? This is one of the most practical questions in the entire passage. What does worry actually accomplish? Does it extend life? Does it guarantee outcomes? Does it create security? No. Worry feels like control, but it produces exhaustion. Now the teaching continues. See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin, yet not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. Again, this is not about inactivity. Flowers grow. They exist within design. They flourish without anxiety. Then the comparison sharpens. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, will He not much more clothe you? There is a repeated phrase in this passage, much more. You are not an afterthought. You are not less considered. You are not secondary in care. Now listen to how the passage concludes. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. This sentence sets limits. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That is not negative. It is stabilizing. It means today is defined. Today has boundaries. Today is manageable. The problem begins when your mind stacks tomorrow on top of today, when you try to solve next month this afternoon, when you rehearse conversations that have not happened, when you prepare for losses that have not occurred. That is when overwhelm begins. The original listeners understood uncertainty. Many were laborers. Many lived under political pressure. Many had limited control over their environment, and yet the instruction remained. Do not let worry rule your mind. You may not be concerned about bread in the same way, but uncertainty still exists. It may be financial pressure, health concerns, relational strain, career instability. The form changes. The mental habit does not. Your mind jumps forward. What if this fails? What if I lose this? What if something goes wrong? And suddenly you are living in a day that has not arrived. You are not designed to carry that weight. You are designed to handle what is in front of you. There is no command here to stop preparing. There is no command to avoid responsibility. The correction is panic. You can act without spiraling. You can plan without rehearsing disaster. You can move forward without mentally living in tomorrow. That is steadiness. If your mind has been overwhelmed recently, hear this clearly. Everything will be all right. Not because life contains no difficulty, but because you are not carrying it alone. Worry does not secure tomorrow. It only steals today. Clarity does not come from frantic thinking. Peace begins when your mind releases what it cannot control. Right now, you have this hour, this task, this decision. Stay here. Handle what is in front of you. Release what is not. You are more valuable than you realize. Earlier in the chapter, just before this section, there is a key instruction. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. That sentence explains the entire structure of this teaching. Worry happens when something becomes first in your mind. Security becomes first, money becomes first, outcomes become first, control becomes first. When something temporary moves into first place, your mind begins to guard it aggressively. That guarding becomes anxiety. To seek first does not mean ignore your responsibilities. It means reorder your priorities. It means alignment before reaction. When the kingdom, meaning the rule and perspective of God, is first, everything else finds its proper place. Food still matters, work still matters, planning still matters, but they are no longer ultimate. And when something is not ultimate, it loses its power to control your mind. Think about how this works practically. There is a difference between planning and worrying. Planning is specific. It says, this is what needs to be done. This is the next step. This is the responsible action. Worry is vague. It says, what if everything collapses? What if this never works? What if I cannot recover? Planning produces action. Worry produces tension. Planning ends when the task is defined. Worry continues even after nothing more can be done. That is the difference. If you have done what you can do today and your mind is still running, that is not responsibility. That is anxiety looking for control. Now imagine a simple example. You have an upcoming financial decision. You review the numbers. You consider options. You make the best choice available. That is planning. But later that night, your mind replays the scenario again and again. You begin imagining worst outcomes. You begin forecasting disasters that are not present. You feel pressure in your chest. That is worry. Nothing new is being accomplished. No new information is being gathered. No action is being taken. Your mind is attempting to secure what it cannot fully control. This is where the instruction becomes practical. Each day has enough trouble of its own. That means today has a defined assignment. Once you have met today's responsibility, you are allowed to stop. You are allowed to rest your mind. You are allowed to say, I have done what I can for this day. That is not laziness. That is wisdom. The original listeners had very little control over political systems, taxation, and economic uncertainty. Yet the instruction was not, control your empire. It was, do not let worry rule you. The same principle applies now. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot secure every possibility. But you can choose where your mind rests. You can choose what is first. You can choose to handle what is in front of you and release what is not. That is maturity. That is steadiness. If your mind has been carrying tomorrow on top of today, it is understandable that you feel tired. You were not built to live in multiple days at once. Bring it back to now. What actually needs to be handled today? What is real? What is present? Handle that. Leave the rest. You are not ignoring reality. You are respecting limits. And within those limits, there is peace. Everything will be all right. Not because you control everything, but because you are not alone in what you cannot control. Let that settle. Sit with that for a moment.